Oh my goodness.
Look at you. Look at that. You look like you're one of the emperors in an animatic before they shot Star Wars, and they got they
Yes.
got a fancy British guy to come in.
Well, you know what this is? This is all an attempt to make our show sound better because so I'm in a closet.
Right,
I'm in a
right.
closet with a sound blanket, which is going to be much less interesting for our YouTube audience, but I think our podcast audience will be really pleased with the sound now. I think it's going to be a lot better.
Have we been getting complaints about the audio?
I am getting so many emails.
Yeah,
It's embarrassing. Yeah,
yeah. It's time to address these things.
yeah. So this is I'm still not used to getting it set up, and I actually had to set it up earlier today because, as you know, I called you 20 minutes ago and said I think I'll be there on time.
You were
Um,
racing to get to the studio,
I was racing to get to the studio,
and now
and
you have an official studio.
now I have an official studio. Except I think as I'm going to fix my lighting. I was going to do better lighting instead of having this bald cap glare on the top of my head, and
Yeah.
um, I didn't even have time to go get myself my traditional beer before the show started. That's how behind I was.
Well, thank God you made it. Thank God you're here safely. I'm sorry that you can't get drunk while you're doing it, but we got to do the show.
All right, I'll have that to look forward to when we're done. How are you, man?
I'm good.
Oh wait, what are you drinking?
Just a seltzer
Oh,
with like a lime seltzer.
all right.
Nothing exciting. It's
Um,
good.
it's
It's not
probably going to
exciting.
get to be about 8,000 degrees in this closet by the time the show's over, too. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I wish I was there to help you out, but I'm not a construction person. I wouldn't know what to do.
Okay. How was your week?
Um Busy, a lot of editing, a lot of teaching. We started our Amelia and I started our on camera acting workshop that we teach here in the city. We're doing it remotely, but we teach at a place called Primary Stages, and that's been going great. We always love doing that, but we're doing that and working at pace, so there's a lot of teaching going on, and it's been busy. I need a little. I'm looking forward to a little Halloween weekend to chill out a little bit. How about you?
What are you getting dressed up as something?
I always kind of dress up as something, you know. I mean, every day I'm just kind of playing a character in some fashion, aren't we all?
I used to be an actor uh, back back in the day
When there was an Earth.
when there was when there was an Earth, when there was a planet out there that we could go participate in.
That's
Now I sit around the house.
now you talk about movies.
I talk about movies.
Yeah.
Yes, with my brother. Did you
Um,
see anything interesting this week?
what did I see? Well, we've been doing a run of Exorcist movies for Rated Paranormal
Uh
for the
huh.
other podcasts I do, and so we watched Exorcist 3, and Amelia, that's her first movie, so I always enjoy watching that and talking about that. So we've been watching like old horror movies. That's what we've been doing. I haven't. I got an episode into Squid Game, and I
One
saw the
episode.
pilot. Yeah, but I
Okay.
started late. Like I want to see the show, but I've only seen one episode so far. I'm way behind. Um, you know, I'm just like I like the golden oldies. What can I say? How was your week?
I don't even remember my week. It was.
Well,
It
you're
was.
still in it.
I'm still in it. It's been really busy. Busy with lawyers. We got an email from our lawyers the other night for this business I'm starting with two friends. This new spirit we're launching. We got an email with corporate documents for us to review, and I think there were 26 documents attached to this email. And I actually am an attorney aside from playing one on television sometimes. I didn't understand what any of these documents said. I called our lawyer and I said, which of these do I have to actually read and understand, or should we just sign them and send them back to you? Um,
Wasn't that his job to explain them to you?
yeah, but it's too complicated for me to even. It would be like you're having brain surgery, right? And then oh, well, please explain to me exactly what you're doing. Yeah, you're
I
not going
get
to
it.
understand it.
Well, let me put it this way. Someone sent me an article on non-fungible tokens today, and I feel no better off than I was before I read it.
Non-fungible tokens.
NFTs, yeah.
Yeah. I do know from my time in law school what fungible and non-fungible goods are. I do know what those
Yeah,
are.
but do you know what they mean when they call it an NFT in terms of digital media?
I'm guessing that a non-fungible token is a digital signature type item that you can use that cannot be exchanged for another one of like kind. It's completely unique and distinguishable from all others.
Even though it's exactly the same as any other reproduction of it ever will be.
Right. But it cannot, because fungible goods are
Yeah.
things like nails are
Well,
fungible.
you're actually wrong because what it really is a way for people like Kim Kardashian to make even more money off of their great works of digital art.
Wow.
I asked somebody who knew about it today because I was like thinking about like, well, I hear about these NFTs. Maybe there'd be a way to to sell some of my artwork. I've been drawing for a long time, and
Right. But doesn't
they're
it
like,
mean
no, no, they just want Kim Kardashian's emoji from
right, but doesn't
1987.
it mean that for her, that thing that she has created, she can make multiple copies of it, and they are visually and for all intents and purposes indistinguishable, each one from the other, but that each copy has something attached to it that distinguishes it so that she knows, oh, that copy that you have is bootleg. I can take it away from you.
When I started this conversation, I started saying I didn't understand this. So I don't know why you're asking me at the end of it.
Okay. All right. Well, fungible is just a fun word to say.
It is.
Yeah. Is that fungible?
Is that
Yeah.
is that
The that amusement park is much more fungible than the other amusement
yeah?
park.
Is that penne with fungibles?
Yes. Yeah. Fungibles.
Um. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent. I don't. What I meant to say is this is a crazy world, and I
It
don't
is a crazy.
understand it anymore.
Okay.
Which doesn't matter. No one
Um
asked.
so but I didn't watch anything interesting this week. Nothing my life has been a desert of culture this week. I don't have anything. It was
Oh.
all work.
Oh well.
Except I did no, that's not true. I did see one movie this week that I guess we're going to talk about now.
Oh well. You did your share. You did your part.
I
You
did
saw
my part.
something.
I did. I saw 1983's Christine.
Um. Did you have a fungible time?
I had a very fungible time. I actually this movie gave me all of the feels that I wanted it to give me. Um, it wasn't, horrifying like but I had such a just plain fun, nostalgic time
Mm.
watching it.
Oh yeah.
Um, a really nostalgic time because doesn't it take place in 1978? Came out in 1983, but isn't it 1978 at the high school in this movie?
I don't honestly remember. Did they have a card that said
I
that? I
think they had
wasn't
a
paying
card
attention.
after Christine came off the line and we
Hmm.
flashed forward. I
Why
thought
is
we flashed
1978 was meaningful to you?
was the year I graduated from high school.
Oh, okay.
So that high school that he was in was essentially the high school that I was in. It felt it was very,
Yeah.
the clothes, the people, the stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it came out, and I don't remember it being 78 or whatever, but I mean, it came out in 83, so it still feels also like my,
Yeah,
young adolescence too. And I came to this one kind of late. I really wasn't into Christine for a long time. I like John Carpenter, but I was, I'm a maniac for The Thing and Halloween and They Live and a bunch of his movies. But Christine, I don't know, for whatever reason at the time I wasn't a huge fan. I've come around on it. I think it's great, and I don't think the second half is as strong as the first half. And I'm not a huge fan of how it all ends, but I can get my nitpicky stuff out of the way right there, because
everything
I'm
else.
pretty down for. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you want to give the capsule for
yeah.
our
Okay,
listeners?
sure. Yeah. It says Christine, based on Stephen King's novel of the same name. It's directed by John Carpenter, with a screenplay by Bill Phillips, and it stars Keith Gordon,
Oh,
John Stockwell, and Alexandra Paul. Keith Gordon, who interestingly has gone on to be quite a wonderful director, since he was a really excellent young actor and child actor. He's in a lot of great movies, but then he kind of became more interested in directing, and he's really great. And anyway, Christine is about it's a killer car movie. It's a movie about a killer car,
another
Matthew.
one of those.
Yeah, really, a really kind of uptight, nervous, kind of nerdy high school kid who doesn't have any luck being social or getting any attention from girls. He's but he's smart and he's a nice guy, and his best friend's a football player and kind of a cool dude. Anyway, they have some misadventures at high school together, and you find out that this young guy, Arnie, is he's got kind of trouble at home. His parents are really, really hard on him, and he's struggling. He doesn't have a lot of money. Things are kind of tough for Arnie. And one day after school, they drive by a kind of a junkyard and see a gorgeous old. I'm forgetting the actual model of the car now, which is stupid because this is about a. Is it a
I think
Plymouth?
it's a Plymouth Fury, isn't it?
I think so. It's an old Plymouth Fury from what 57 or something, and it's rusted out and it's sitting in a heap, and he buys it from the old gentleman who owns the property.
Who we will talk about.
Oh, we will be talking about Robert Blossom for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
And there's a mystery about the car. It used to be this old man's brother's car, and he was in love with it. But then he died, and his wife also died, and he
And
sells
his
the car
baby
to
daughter, didn't his
his
daughter die
daughter
in it?
died. Yeah, of course, the movie starts on the assembly line when we see Christine getting built. Really beautiful montage of cars coming off this 1950s assembly line
Yep.
to classic 50s rock and roll, and you see her come off the brand new paint job, and
Yep. And they're
this
all white. All of the cars are white except for Christine. She's the only red car in that line.
and she is so beautiful that one of the workmen comes off the line and kind of inspects her and really appreciates her, and he sits down in the front seat, and he's got a cigar. He's got a cigar. Gesundheit. God bless you.
Excuse me. Oh, but before he does that, before that, somebody's hand gets chopped off in the hood.
Yes, yes. There's an accident involving Christine, and then the guy ashes his cigar in the front seat. The way that they apparently did back when they made cars
Yeah.
in the 50s.
Well, it had plastic
And
on it, like in your grandmother's living room.
Christine doesn't like that. She doesn't like that at all,
No.
and she kills him. You gonna make some more noises, or are
I'm
you?
gonna mute myself while I cough. You can
Okay,
keep talking.
okay. Matthew's having a medical problem right now. It's a very scary visual, actually, right then, without the
Yeah.
noise, because it looked like you needed the Heimlich maneuver
Yeah.
really badly.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's back, and so we learn the backstory of this car, but then we see it as this old car, and Arnie buys it for like $250, and his
Because it's
parents won't.
fallen apart. It practically has plants growing out of it when he
Yeah,
sees
it's
it.
a mess. It's a mess, and his parents won't even let him keep it in the driveway. So he gets a deal to store it at this junk shop, where this is like junkyard where they have junker cars.
Darnell's do-it-yourself garage.
And the great Robert Prosky
Oh
tears
my
it up,
God. Oh my
tears it up
God.
as the owner of this establishment. And Arnie brings the car back to life. And if you've ever seen The Shining or read that book, you kind of know where this is going.
Yeah.
If The Shining is a haunted hotel, this is a haunted car.
Right. And Arnie's personality starts to change. He becomes enamored of the car. The car starts to become a person, kind of has a personality, and starts killing people.
Yeah, and Arnie's personality changes kind of at first for the good in a way. Like
Yeah.
he gets a lot of he has new self respect because he has this automobile that he's made look really beautiful, and he actually, he ends up kind of getting a girlfriend, and you don't really know quite why. That's a plot line I think could have used a little bit of work, maybe from Deborah Hill, who should have been on this movie and wasn't. But I mean, I think really that's the only part of this film where I just can't I can't get in love with this part. But
You can't
she
get in love with Alexandra Paul
no,
of
that's not that's not
Baywatch fame.
well, no, but that's not what I'm. You say it in a way that makes it sound kind of wrong and dirty, and I don't mean it that way. All I mean to say, stop making me look like such a creep. What I mean to say is that that character is underwritten, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel I understood why they were dating. But anyway, he gets a girlfriend, and he starts kind of dressing like a cooler guy, and then it goes wrong. He starts to actually become kind of sullen and violent, and curses out his parents, fights with his dad. It gets real rebel without a cause. He kind of turns a little James Dean-y,
Yeah.
as James Dean as Keith Gordon's gonna get.
Yeah. And then Christine starts killing people on her own, like just driving herself around killing people.
Well, she's jealous. She's madly jealous and very protective of Keith Gordon, of Arnie, and they really do have a relationship. In fact, his girlfriend's very jealous of the car, and in my favorite sequence, almost dies. Christine almost kills his girlfriend, and that is my favorite.
That's your favorite sequence?
That's my yeah. Well, yeah, it actually is. I love the other big action set piece a lot, but this one's fantastic. And so she kind of breaks up with Arnie, and Arnie kind of disappears to his friends for a while, and then they find out what he's been doing.
Yeah.
Now you saw this when you were in high school.
Um, I don't think I
Oh
did.
no, you were out of high school when this came out.
I was out of high school when this came out. I don't think I did see this before.
What? How is that possible? I don't even know how that's possible.
1983, I was in law school. I was busy doing law schooly things.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm sorry, man.
You got to learn to have a better story on the show. I
Oh,
don't. That
really? I
doesn't.
got to
Yeah.
make stuff up.
I was scuba diving for
I'm sorry.
the.
1983 was when I was going through my French New Wave phase.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no. You know what the phase I was going through in 1983
What?
was Preston Sturges. I was watching all of Preston Sturges movies in 1983.
These are not mutually exclusive things.
You know what I'd like to see is Preston Sturges remake of Christine.
It would certainly
Eddie Bracken as Arnie
with a little sex.
with a little sex. And if you don't know that reference, it's to Sullivan's Travels, one of Preston Sturges' great movies. All right, so should we get into the nitty gritty on this movie?
Why not? We told everybody what it is, and
Okay.
it's this isn't a movie you got to worry about spoiling. It's
Yeah.
it's a
Okay,
pretty
well,
simple trajectory.
they did a great thing at the beginning. I thought, through the Columbia Pictures logo and everything, I kept thinking, damn it, there's something wrong with my TV, because there was no sound. I couldn't get any sound. And then I finally realized, oh, there's nothing. I went to another channel. There's nothing wrong with my sound. So I'm like, okay, start it. It goes through all the logo and all the beginning. And then the sound of the car starting up, that deep, throaty growl, actually made me jump. So they made me jump at the beginning of the movie, before it has started, before anything scary has happened. Christine got me right at the beginning. And I thought, okay, that's great filmmaking right from the beginning,
This
to
is
do it
John.
that
Yeah.
simply.
It's John Carpenter. He's the
Yeah.
master of keeping it economical and scaring you silly.
Right. And then that first visual, she's the only red car on the line, you know. And the great shot of the guy who's going to get his hand chopped off, that shot in the rearview mirror of him walking up to the car. Great shot. But it also just, it was interesting because for me, it almost had a feeling of, how they're doing all this stuff on Netflix now where they go back to the 70s or they go back to the 80s and they recreated it. Recreate it. This movie almost felt like it happened then. The movie was made then, and yet it completely captured in a very realistic way the social structure of high school at the time. And he didn't idealize the high school. It didn't look like it looked like a real high school.
Oh, I think they shot. Yeah, it looks like they shot it in a real high school. It's
The
very
football
real.
game and everything, it wasn't all prettied up in any way. It was almost like a documentary.
Yeah, I guess. Although, I mean, I don't know. I had the option to see it on. There's two different formats that it was available in on Amazon Prime, where I got to see the movie, and I'd seen it before, but never saw like a 4K print of it, like a really good print. So I rented the 4K version of it and streamed that, and oh my god, the photography is incredible, and it's just the best car shooting, like the way that they film the Christine herself, but all cars and all people riding in cars and moving alongside cars, and all the photography of these things is stunning. And I have to dig deeper and find out how, like, inspired. For instance, I thought of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Death Proof, as two movies that really, I think, stole some moves from Christine. It's just incredible, and how she's a real character. I mean, she is truly. She has a complete personality.
That's what got me, is how much he created a jealous female character that is just a hunk of metal. And the one of my favorite shots in the whole thing is the shot on the football field where Arnie's best friend gets hurt and everybody goes running to Arnie after he's hurt, and the camera just does this slow pan left and zoom in on Christine, and it's just a shot of a car, and yet that car is sitting there smugly smiling to itself that it has wreaked vengeance on this guy.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, just the design of it is the perfect model of car to do this with. It's not such a famous model that you've seen it 1,000 times in movies, but it's still a classic, and it's kind of funny looking from some angle. Like, it's a really interesting, weird car.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of personality, and the way that they shoot it, and like those shots of it in the alley when it's chasing one of the evil teen kids from high school.
When it's chasing Moochie?
Yeah, when it's chasing Moochie, those scenes in the alley when it's coming around the corner and from the dark are terrifying. They're absolutely
Really
chilling, yeah.
They black out the windows.
And they did it, of course, so you couldn't see the stunt driver, who was, you know.
Oh, is that why they did it? I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, so I am surprised you didn't see this. Where are you on the John Carpenter scale? Because is this just another movie from the '80s to you, or is this a John Carpenter movie for you?
it's a John Carpenter movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
We haven't talked about Carpenter really, so I don't know. I don't know what you think of him.
I like Carpenter. I like
Wrong. That's a
Carrie.
terrible answer. I like it. It's like, what do you?
I'm not a devotee as you would be. You know, I'm not.
Oh
I don't
God.
know movies like you
Oh.
know movies. You're
Oh
the expert.
God.
You're the movie expert. I like movies. I watch them. I pull stories apart. But I'm not the connoisseur that you are.
That's not. That's a different conversation, and I just mean.
I
I
mean,
just mean that
when I'm
that
like
one
I'm
one for.
writing something,
Mm,
and I'm going, oh, I need a scene in which a an Italian person is playing the drums. What I need a reference to an Italian person playing the drums. I call you, Tony. What's a movie where there's an Italian person playing the drums, and you'll tell me. You know, I need a movie in which a 7-year-old is making fettuccine, and you'll know, like right off the top of your head. Oh, a 7-year-old makes fettuccine in this movie.
but you have to understand my exceptional knowledge of the field doesn't really have anything to do with you being asked if you what you think of John Carpenter as a filmmaker and you going, it's good. He's fine. I mean, I think the podcast is definitely about somebody who loves movies and somebody who kind of likes them.
No, I love
You kind of
movies.
like it's good. He's okay. Um,
It's
completely redefine the genre, but
maybe
you
we
know,
should change the name of the show to An Arkin Brother Talks About Movies. And another brother chimes in sometimes with inane non sequiturs.
no, no, we're just this isn't your wheelhouse. Understandably, I'm a horror nut, so I love John Carpenter, and studied his movies as a kid, and it wasn't your thing. You were in law school. You're more mature than I am, clearly, and had other things on your mind. But um,
But
what's okay? Go ahead.
Carrie has a Carrie. I like that movie. It scared me a lot. I watched it. That's a John Carpenter movie, right? I'm not.
That is not correct.
That's not. Oh, okay. He's
No,
who directed Carrie?
Brian De Palma.
Oh, right. Okay.
It
See,
is Stephen King, but it's are we
that was
doing a is this a movie show? I thought we were doing a movie podcast. Sorry, Bet Bowles had something to say. What's that, Bet Bowles? Bet Bowles said something. My first car, Ford Pinto. Okay. I came out okay. No one on fire. That's good to hear, Bet, because I heard some people had some trouble with those
I'm
Pintos.
glad we were able to change the topic from me
Mm.
not knowing that Carrie was Brian De Palma there for a minute.
No, that's fine. That was Brian De Palma, different director. Brian De Palma, director of Casablanca.
Okay. I had a long day. It's
I
been a long day.
understand.
Yeah.
You had a long day teaching film class, so let's do this.
I think I'll be getting fired tomorrow.
No, they're happy that you don't know who Brian De Palma is. That's good. They don't need that filth, and they're taught it in their school. John Carpenter is Halloween and Escape from New York, and They Live, and The Thing, and Prince of Darkness,
Escape
and
from New York, which we talked about on this.
it came up for sure.
Didn't we? We watched it, didn't we?
We did.
For
We
the
did
show?
watch
We
it for
watched
the
the
show.
show,
Hmm.
and Brian De Palma didn't he direct Carlito's Way that we
Yeah,
watched? Okay, so I know one or two things.
yeah, you do. Just still not who directed Carrie, but that's fine. What I think is interesting that you bring up Carrie is that to me this is actually I think of this because I hadn't read the either book, but I've seen both movies. And I'm guessing this is kind of like Stephen King's like Carrie for boys.
Yeah, well, Stephen King does not like bullies.
No,
He doesn't like bullies, what I think is interesting is the bully in this movie, um, William Ostrander, who plays Buddy, the bully, is wonderful in it, um, and is reminiscent of John Travolta's character in Carrie.
Similar, yeah.
Which I double checked before we did the show. I went and watched the clip from Carrie to make sure that it was actually John Travolta. I didn't mess that one up. He gets killed in a fiery car crash that Carrie they're trying to run Carrie down, and she does her look, and the car flips and explodes.
Yeah, yeah. So there's similar DNA here. Same
Yeah.
writer, same source writer, and
Yeah.
they're kind of like I don't know, the two high school, outsider high school stories, and one's a very, very female centric concept completely, and this one is so much about masculinity and young testosterone, and there's this weird like misguided sexual energy in this movie too, which is really, I think really notable. Like in the fight, like the evil kid wins the fight because he grabs John Stockwell by the balls, and it's all this really weird kind of like negative male sexuality on display in this movie.
Yeah. There's also some weirdness with that they never go all the way explaining between Alexandra Paul and John Stockwell, where they sort of becoming boyfriend and girlfriend at the end, and it's handled in a really weird way, and I kept expecting, oh, Christine's gonna, that's bad, because that's bad, right? Isn't that bad to be with your friend's girlfriend? That's a bro code thing, right?
Well, I think once your friend has already tried to kill that girlfriend, all bets are off in
All bets
terms
are
of
off.
maybe you can date that person. Maybe
I
I
don't
don't know.
know.
I think it's
I think the
you know
bro code's pretty strong.
I don't know if it's that strong. I mean,
Oh,
he's. I think they've already determined that he was a homicidal maniac. She kind of breaks up with him anyway. Like they're kind of over.
okay. All
I
right.
don't know.
Then
I
I'll.
wouldn't worry about it too much. But maybe that's what I'm talking about. This is a sexually advanced movie. It's incredibly advanced.
Okay.
Um,
Way ahead of groundbreaking and ahead of its time.
way ahead of its time.
All right. Um, can we talk a little bit? One thing I loved is the subtle progression of Arnie's character as told through costume and color and props. From the nerdy guy with the nerdy hair, the glasses that get broken, the classic taped nerdy glasses after they're broken by the bad guy, into a real subtle shift of his hair into, like you said, the rebel without a cause hairdo, without it going too overboard, and then he starts to subtly turn into what we would have called in high school a greaser. He's hanging out at the Darnell's do-it-yourself garage, and then he shows up in that red jacket that just says Satan, basically.
Yeah.
But it's
It's
also the
like
same
it
color
says
as,
Satan by members only.
yeah, Satan by members only. And then a little later is gone is the red jacket, and we've moved on to the black vest.
Hmm.
And then finally the black vest and the red devil jacket. I mean, it's all really
Yeah.
well planned out, that visual transition. Um, and the jacket totally matches the color of Christine.
It totally does. And what I love about it too is that it's actually not that hip or cool. It's like it's Arnie's version of cool 50s, but Arnie's not a really cool guy. So,
No.
I mean, other than the car is definitely the coolest thing about Arnie,
Yes.
and his ability to build cars and stuff. Having read a little bit about not I didn't read the novel, but having read a little bit about the differences between the book and the movie,
Yeah.
I have to say I'm kind of disappointed. I don't hold John Carpenter responsible for this because he's not really a writer. John Carpenter, he's not known
Okay.
for his screenwriting. But I feel like they kind of missed the boat on the Christine legacy, on the mythology a little bit. When I learned what it was in the book, I found it much more unnerving.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that. What I noticed, and maybe this is going to key into what you're about to talk about, is that I felt what was missing in the movie was Christine's origin story, because it tells us that, it starts with her chopping the guy's hand off, right? So that's what tells us right away that she's bad. But when I say origin story, I'm like, why, how, and why? What made her different than the other cars on that line? How did the evil spirit get into her? Is that addressed in the book? Is that
That's
what you're talking
exactly
about?
what that's exactly what's handled differently in the book apparently. And I would like to read the book to see how accurate this is, but apparently from what I've read, Christine isn't born bad. She doesn't come off the line bad. She's the person that buys her is completely evil and develops a psychotic relationship with her, and they become kind of melded, and it's because of the owner's evil that she becomes evil herself. And the way that that possession then becomes that Arnie's possessed by the previous owner, not by Christine or anything. That's where it also gets a little muddy. Like,
Right.
I know he's obsessed by the car, but then he seems kind of possessed. But then you're like, well, by who? By what? Because we don't know what Christine is, so we don't.
Right.
But in this version, it would have been the original owner who kind of, through his obsession, dies, and then his evil spirit is kind of in Christine. And
Right.
so any owner. Oh, and then once he died in real life, Christine couldn't rebuild herself because she needed to have this torrid love affair with her driver at that point.
Right.
And so when he died, she goes into disrepair, and then Arnie brings her back to life, and she kind of falls in love with him, and then imbues him with the spirit of this previous owner, who was a
Yeah.
really bad dude.
See, all of that is completely missing in the movie.
Totally.
She is, and they use it they use the song to tell us in the movie Born to be Bad. She
Yeah.
comes off the line bad, and I that was the one part of the movie that was dissatisfying to me from a story perspective, is there was no why to that, and I
Yeah, I agree.
didn't buy it.
I mean, I think that you kind of I kind of feel like John Carpenter made a case for that kind of horror character in Halloween, and it works perfectly in Halloween. That you know just a little bit about Michael Myers, but you really don't know what's going on in that head of his. And I love that level of mystery about the character, and so I get disappointed when they try in other films to explain more about him. It always
Mhm.
bothered me. But this is a movie where the mythology of it, I think, would have been really important in the same way that it worked in The Shining. I mean, it really works in The Shining to increase that terror of what's happening to Arnie, because we kind
Right.
of realize, oh no, he's we would know a little bit about what's happening to him, and now
Right.
we don't. We don't really know, except that he's just getting kind of mean, and it comes off a little bit more like a cautionary tale about drug addiction or something.
Hmm. Well, to
This
go
way,
back to what you were saying about Halloween and Michael Myers, is I buy that with a human. Like I buy the concept there was a human born with a piece missing, and they are evil, right? I'll but the with an inanimate object, I didn't buy it.
well, yeah, I think neither of us totally did. I mean,
Yeah.
in a way, I think it would have been better not to have any explanation.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think I would have bought it if she hadn't chopped a guy's hand off. If we weren't supposed to think that these events had something to do with her being possessed or evil, that she just came
Right.
off the line and she was just different, a different color. That I think that would have been enough.
Right.
And you just never know the mystery of this car, except that it never really dies. I would have thought that would have been a better way to handle it than just these little moments in the beginning that show her being evil. If she just was, maybe that would have been better.
Right. Um, music, fantastic.
Yeah, great choices. Great
We Belong
choices.
Together coming on to the radio
Yeah,
when she's killing Alexandra
yeah.
Paul. Just fantastic. Bit of irony there. Um, and the cast, Keith Gordon, I loved in this. I thought John Stockwell and Alexandra Paul were sort of prototypical uh, 80s, you know, they're fine.
I'll say, let's stop on Stockwell for a second because I think he's fine in it. He's
Yeah, they're both.
but I love that character. I thought there was something so unique about the friendship that they were trying to depict there. It was it was actually pretty unusual in the 80s to have like two dude friends who were in high school. One who's kind of a jock and one who's not, who genuinely just like each other, like genuinely look after
Yeah,
each other,
and care for
genuinely
each
care
other.
about each other in a real like bonded way. That's not in a lot of movies at that time there would have been that thing of like oh, we'd be afraid if people thought we were gay because we were
Right.
hanging out too much. Like there isn't even a mention of it. They're just really close, and to the point where Stockwell like knows Arnie's parents and knows them well enough to kind of be critical of how they're raising him, and
Yeah.
they're almost
And
like
stand up to
brothers.
them. Stands up to them a little bit.
Yeah, and you know he looks after Arnie. He protects him in fights and stuff, but
Yeah.
doesn't feel like Arnie owes him anything. It's a rare thing to see that kind of relationship between two guys in a movie, especially in the 80s, and I thought that was kind of cool. And Stockwell, he didn't seem embarrassed to do any of that stuff, which I think of some young actors at the time might have been. I don't know.
Yeah. How about that David Spielberg? How nice was it to see him?
It was great. Always nice to see him.
Yeah. He's and perfect in that role.
Absolutely. Totally believable.
And we've already mentioned him. Robert Prosky tears it up. And we talked about him before in Thief, right?
Yeah, he just started acting like 15 minutes before this movie got signed.
It's crazy that he makes the choices that he makes, that he goes as far with them as he goes, that he asked for more dialogue to be written for his character. The scene, that bonding scene between the two of them,
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
that is a spectacular scene. And the way he turns from this guy who's just an ass and mean to somebody we like, extraordinary.
Yeah, you really believably see him turn on his heart light, so to speak, which was
Yeah.
probably a song from the same year. And you're kind of like you're like, who is this guy? And you totally believe it. And then he turns back into like a curmudgeonly
Yeah.
kind of bastard again. But
But boy, it's
great
spectacular.
performance. And
And
then
then
the other great thing about this movie is Harry Dean Stanton. I
Harry
mean,
Dean Stanton, who sleepwalks through the movie and is brilliant anyway.
he's so great. He's got like 3 scenes in this movie. He's got hardly anything to do in it. And
Yeah.
his first scene, that scene in the parking lot when he first meets the kid, it's just a masterclass of just being easy on camera.
Yeah.
He's so relaxed.
Sort of like, oh, I'm gonna be in a movie today. Okay, hold on, I gotta get a hot dog first. All right,
But
I'll do
man,
it.
is he? But he isn't sleeping through that scene. I mean, he is clocking that kid. He's so on top
Yeah,
of it.
but he's so easy. I mean, his
Hmm.
work is just so effortless through the whole thing.
Well, that's his whole thing, man. I mean, that's why he's a legend. I think it's really got something to do with that. I mean, it's not just because he's like a budget, Robert Mitchum.
Right.
it's because it's because he's
A
fantastic. I just think
budget
I
Robert
think he's
Mitchum.
fantastic.
But of all of the actors in this movie, can we please talk for a couple of moments about Robert's Blossom?
Robert's Blossom is so out there and so in his own private fairyland of I don't know, like if you don't know who Robert's Blossom is, if you're listening, you probably do, but you're just not remembering. He is the old timer who sits on the mountain in Close Encounters in the middle of the movie and winks at the little kid who's looking at the UFO. He's a UFO watcher. He's the old mountain man UFO watcher. And then he has that great scene at the conference where he's like, "I saw Bigfoot once, made a noise I would not want to hear twice." Anyway, Robert's Blossom, fantastic.
Just, and can I ask you a question? What is he wearing?
I don't know. I was hoping you'd be able to tell me.
That thing that he's wearing under his shirt, which looks like you can't tell if it's a piece of equipment or a back brace or something from dead, like that was left over from when they made Dead Ringers. You just don't know what.
It almost looks like the straps for a World War II parachute setup or something that he
Yeah,
wears all the time. I don't know
don't
what
know
it
what
was.
is going. It's the weirdest choice and creepy.
He can be creepy if he wants to be.
Yeah.
He really can. He has this thing where whenever he's challenged, um, Beth Bull says, "Jesus, I thought Robert's Blossom was the grandmother of the in the Adams family. Color me so wrong." That's hysterical. Yeah,
That's great.
Robert's Blossom. We're not mispronouncing it. That's the way it's pronounced. Is Robert's Blossom.
Blossom. Yeah.
He's also in a really crazy. I forget the name of it, so I shouldn't even bring it up. But I saw him in one of the weirdest, low budgets like slasher, uber violent slasher movies made for $30 from the late '60s.
From the late 60s.
He plays Ed Gein in something like in the first one of the first Ed Gein movies that wasn't Psycho.
Ah,
So Robert's Blossom, he has that look in his eye when he gets challenged, where you're like, you're a scrawny old man, but I'm terrified of what you're thinking right now. When the way he looks at Arnie's friend, at John Stockwell, there's a couple moments
yeah.
where he looks at him and you're just like, oh my God, get out of there. Get out of the junkyard.
How do you spell Ed Gein? I want to find out what.
Why are you asking me that? I don't know.
I want to
I
find
don't know, and I don't want to know.
Deranged, I think is what it was called.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yep.
I believe you're right.
And the reason I was able to find that is because I actually spelled Ed Gein correctly. I'm a little upset that I did. And it starred Robert's Blossom. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you
that's
go.
that's the movie. Yeah,
1974.
it's a crazy, freaky, very low budget movie, and he completely commits to it. He probably like got a sandwich and a lift to work for that movie, and he completely commits to the crazy. It's very disturbing.
Well, we might have to put that on our list.
Do you have a favorite? I mean, we've talked a lot about these cute little acting moments, Matthew, but this is a John Carpenter movie about a haunted killer car. Do you have a favorite moment from this movie?
Do I have a favorite moment? Yeah. I call my favorite moment squeezing Moochie. Um, when he hides in the like, alcove in the parking lot, the end of the alley that's too narrow for Christine to get to him, and Christine decides she's going to get to him anyway, and she slices her own sides off basically to crush him.
She drives through this little alleyway and just wedges in. The engine's
In
so powerful that it
Yeah,
just
and just
drags.
keeps pushing for like, "Ugh,
Yeah,
ugh,
it's
ugh," and gets there and cuts him in half.
isn't
I
it good?
I
So
love yeah,
so great.
I love that. And I also the flaming
Well,
Christine
that's what I was
was
gonna say. There
just how did they do that?
I love the scene, the choking scene at the drive-in. I mean, I do think that's kind of my favorite in like an art movie way. It's really cool. It's different for John Carpenter. It's much more kind of giallo and Dario Argento in style than he usually was. With the extreme lighting inside the car, it gets kind of surreal and crazy.
Yes.
He doesn't really do that a lot. And I just thought that was a really brilliantly shot, constructed scene that ends with her getting the Heimlich maneuver and then Arnie getting angry at the guy that saves her life because he's like touching his girlfriend. And you're
Yeah.
like, wow, it was such a great, moment of writing, and the way they executed, I just thought was fantastic. But that flaming car scene, when that big showdown between Christine and Buddy, I mean, just for action movie thrills, that chase and that I mean, ending up at that exploding gas station,
Yeah.
and then Christine barreling out of that thing like completely in flames, like
Yeah.
engulfed in flame.
And this is before CGI or any of that stuff. There was a stuntman inside a car in on in
On just on
completely in
in an
flames.
inferno.
Yeah.
You're not expecting it. Like
No.
even by today's standards, we really don't do stunts like that anymore. We don't really do that. So to watch these films that were as recently as the 80s and early 90s, where they didn't have a lot of CGI or any CGI to help them out with it, what you're seeing is what is they actually did, and it's staggering. It blows your mind, and it's
Yeah.
so also it's great action because it's so character. Like, that's Christine. She will not stop, and in those moments, this movie works better than the Terminator. Like, it is just relentless, and her drive, forgive the pun, is just epic. It's fantastic.
All right.
So those are great. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's good kills in this movie. There's
Good
good
kills.
action kills, horror movie kills.
Good kills. Christine with the teeth also, like when
Great.
when they do her front grill is ripped up in such a way that it looks like a fang-filled
Yeah.
mouth coming at
Well,
the end.
check out how mean Christine is. She's tough. She will destroy herself to get back at you.
Yeah.
If she doesn't like you, if you've wronged her, she will literally tear her own insides out.
To get you.
Just to get you, and she can then recondition herself.
Yeah.
She just kind of like gets blown out, and she's ready to go again.
You know how they
Total-
did that? Did you read
Yeah,
it all on how
yeah.
they did that? It's fantastic.
It's really special to see practical effects that are that
For our
beautifully done.
listeners who don't know, they had a plastic version of the car with hydraulics inside that would basically crush the car from the inside, suck the pieces in on itself, and then ran it in reverse so that
Mhm.
it looks like she's putting herself back together, and it
Yeah.
works beautifully.
All this crushed in metal pops back out and becomes
Yeah.
perfect, and it sounds like it would be silly, and honestly, we couldn't do that better. It's so beautifully shot and
Yeah.
so realized. You really can't believe. And I tell you, in that 4K, I saw it in 4K, high def. It holds up. It's perfect. Like, you
I
can't.
think if it was
there's-
computer generated, it would look more fake. It would look fake.
well, it would be fake.
Oh, that's true. Um,
It
that's
would
true.
literally
Okay, let's move on then. Uh,
technically be fake.
yeah.
Um,
Um, favorite lines in the movie?
I kind of failed there. I didn't have a lot of great. I didn't love. None of the lines really stuck out, except actually like Prosky's speech that Prosky wanted to put back in the movie.
Right.
That I liked, but I didn't. None of the dialogue really hit me too hard. How about you?
There were a couple of things that I liked. Has it ever occurred to you that part of being a parent is trying to kill your kids? I liked I liked that line. I don't know if it's from the book, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Um, and don't touch me, sinner was kind of out of the blue and odd
yeah,
when Arnie gets angry at the fellow. Um, and then the conversation, and this goes back to what you were talking about the relationship between Arnie and his best friend, John Stockwell. Um, when Arnie's first got the car and is starting to like feel good about himself, and they're talking about that, and Arnie says, "I don't know, maybe it's for the first time in my life I found something uglier than me."
yeah,
And John Stockwell says, "You're not ugly, Arnie." And Arnie says, "I know what I am." And it's really
yeah.
very
That's actually.
touching.
Now that you mention it, I remember being kind of struck by that moment. That's a really good moment between them,
Yeah, very
and well
touching.
written. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, to me it was to me the experience was purely just like it was just about the magic of bringing this car alive. I mean, this is just that's the great magic stunt of this whole movie is believing this car is this living thing, and I
yeah,
really think they pulled that off. Like that you can complain about some of the casting or some of the minor roles or the script and stuff and whatever, and I can't argue that. But when they get right something that is usually just not believable in almost any other movie you see, gotta
no,
give it credit.
I think the only time they did it nearly as well as this was William Daniels as Kit
Well,
in Knight Rider.
Knight Rider is the classic. I made a little list of the things I could think of that were, where this is because this is in a genre of stories and science fiction stories and movies of the machinery come to life, the car come to life,
Oh, okay.
being
So is
possessed.
this a thing? This is this things in Christine?
Well, no, this is just more. No, this is just other films and things that are similarly that have similar plot. I
Gotcha.
mean, like like Duel comes to mind, Spielberg's
Yeah.
TV film Duel. Um, the short story Killdozer. Did you ever read Killdozer?
Yeah, that's a great short story.
Killdozer's great, and they made an actually a pretty good '70s TV movie
Yep.
on Killdozer. That was good. Then you've got The Car from like I think 1975, starring James Brolin, if I'm not mistaken. About a killer
Ah,
car out in the middle of the Southwest that's basically Jaws on wheels and they don't explain what this car is or why. It's just evil and it runs
just an
things
evil
over.
car. Right.
And then you've got Maximum Overdrive, also from Stephen King, this time directed also, which was a bit of a mistake. Magnetic Monster with Richard Carlson from 1952, I think. Vampire Motorcycle. And Child's Play even could be considered part of this. It's not a car or truck, but it's a doll that comes to life that's possessed.
Well, but then we'd have to go to Chucky.
Well, that is Chucky.
Oh, Child's Play. Oh, Child's Play became Chucky.
Yes. Yes.
Ah, oh, Chucky wasn't called Chucky. It was called Child's Play.
Chucky is the name of the
The
character in
character in
Child's Play.
Child's Play.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, and then I guess you can draw a line from Child's Play to Ex Machina.
Sure. But directed by the great Brian De Palma.
And then you could draw a line from that to Blade Runner.
Well, you can draw lines all over the place. You can draw them any way you want.
I'm here drawing lines.
I like this. I kind of like this genre. to be honest. This is entertaining. Like, even the worst of these, even Maximum Overdrive, I would watch that right now. Right
I've
now.
never seen it. Right now? Okay.
You should think about seeing it.
Maximum Overdrive.
I would
Okay.
consult your doctor, but check and see if you should see it because I think he would say you should see it.
Okay. Um,
Now, okay, I want to bring up something a little bit strange, and
I'm here
I'm
for
going to
you.
be delicate about this.
Okay.
I did have a strange moment when, at the end, the way that they finally destroy Christine is with a bulldozer, which is
Yeah.
a extremely masculine kind of looking and behaving piece of
Right.
equipment,
They
and
crush her.
yeah, it's the way they do it. There was something odd about it to me. I just want to. I'm not even going to say anything more than that. There was something somewhat perversely sexualized about that to me. I thought.
Oh,
Did you? Did you?
wow.
Did you?
I
Did
didn't.
you?
I didn't pick
No.
up
Run that
on.
film. Run that film again sometime and tell me if you don't
Okay,
think that there's some other.
I'll run that back.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
All right. Did it remind you of the Unterpanzi sequence in Toast of London?
Yes,
Is that what you're talking about?
a little bit.
You got
Yeah,
a little bit of that vibe.
a little bit. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to go
Okay.
any more into it than that.
All right. Then moving
Um,
on. One shot I thought was interesting was when Arnie is starting to turn and he's at the garage and he has his first big fight with his girlfriend on the phone, and they did a nice frame within a frame and him behind all of the window panes, so it was a little bit of a prison. It's a little bit of Arnie trapped
mm-hmm.
visual going on. I like those kinds of
You
things.
do. You do.
I look for those. I look for when um particularly when anything that they're doing where they're using the environment to suggest the world closing in, like in Wait Until Dark. There's a great shot of Audrey Hepburn when she realizes that all of the guys are against her and that there's no one to help her, and they do this great shot of the camera going up the camera goes up the stairs so that she's shot through the baluster, and she's trapped. She's in a cage. And I anytime they do those kinds of
anytime
visual
somebody is,
storytelling things,
anytime there's somebody trapped in some scenario,
I like that.
you like that.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's I love those and because I teach visual storytelling to the freshmen,
Yeah.
I'm always looking for those little places where
Sure.
the
Yeah.
DP said, "Hey, you know what would be interesting is if we did this, because that would tell this part of the story." I like those things.
It's always, I mean, that's, I think, the hallmark of a great movie. I think if a movie doesn't have those elements in it, you may be dealing with a movie that's not quite as great.
There you go. There.
Just my
And the
feeling.
other thing I have to say, and I don't know why I have to say this, there's a sweater that Keith Gordon wore in this movie. The one with sort of the shawl collar and the two buttons and a kind of shawl.
Yes.
I had that sweater in high school.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
Yeah.
did.
You remember it?
I do. I think it was a Land's End sweater, maybe.
Yeah, and it gave me such a nostalgic, warm feeling.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, I was back in high school watching this movie. It really,
Yeah, that and
connected with
the
me that way.
Timberlands and the
Yep.
yeah,
There you go.
all of it. The shirts, the khaki shirts that were unbuttoned but tucked in, but unbuttoned all the way with a t-shirt underneath. Another classic look from the
Yep.
period.
Yep. And
Yes.
that divide, that social divide between the kids who hung out at a place, who took shop versus the kids who played football versus,
Yeah, well, all that stuff was very enforced when we were in high school. I'm assuming it's a very different landscape now. I can't imagine there are many smoking areas in
in
high
high
school
school.
anymore where
Oh, that's right.
the
It
greasers
really,
hung out and would smoke like on campus.
yeah, I remember the smoking area on campus.
I
Oh my
mean,
gosh.
I guess they have a weed smoking area now, but your
Yes,
cigarettes,
yeah,
forget
of
it. You
course,
can't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Um, I love also just this is a visual thing, but every time they use it, it's so good. Is those headlights, man? That's a
Oh,
classic image from this movie. When those headlights go on,
yep.
you know it's she means business. It
And the
is.
green hue when
Mm-hmm.
she's possessed, they give her a little green
Well, in the
tint behind.
dashboard,
Yeah.
yeah, on the speedometer,
Yep.
it's fantastic.
Letting us know bad things are a coming.
Yeah. I mean, I think as much as I love Keith Gordon, I think he goes they were that scene in the car with him and Stockwell maybe a little maybe it goes a little far in the mustache twirling. I'm not going to blame Keith. I think he was directed to do it.
Well,
That's
he's
my
the
only.
director. He could hire us. So, careful, Well,
What are
no.
you talking about? He's going to hire me to do what? I don't need any lawn jobs right now. Okay. I have all the pool cleaning jobs I can handle. I don't need him. So what are you implying? You think our paths are going to cross in the industry somehow? Is that what
Keith
you're
is going to
implying?
listen to this podcast and he's going to say, I want those guys in my next movie.
I praise him. I've praised him continuously throughout this. If I can't bring up a moment in one of
One
his
more.
first
Okay.
films when he was 16 and say I think he was directed to go a little too far, I can't be honest on this show.
No, okay. All
And
right.
no one will trust me when I speak. I mean, why should they? But I have to have some
Yes.
kind of credibility here.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, there's things I could say that would make me not work again. I'm not going to say those
Well,
things.
I do say those things sometimes. So,
That De Palma thing really could cost you. I'm not going to lie.
a problem. A problem. Yeah, I'm probably not working for Brian. Brian, I'm sorry.
I'm really sorry, Brian. I love your
Yeah.
movies. Did you do more than one?
I loved Carlito's Way. Listen to our episode on Carlito's Way. I said many, many praiseworthy things in that.
You did. You were a fan of that film.
Yeah, big fan of that movie. Loved that movie. Um, well, I guess we've talked about Christine, and next week we're going to talk about the stuff, right?
Yeah. Next week is this stuff.
Yeah.
Also from the 70s, or no, is it the early 80s? That's interesting. I haven't looked that up yet.
Ah, well, there you go.
The stuff. How do you spell that?
Stuph.
Oh. Oh, that's a different kind of movie. Wait a minute.
The Stuff, 1985, satirical
85.
science fiction horror film directed by
Yeah.
Larry Cohen.
The great Larry Cohen. The great and ever underappreciated Larry Cohen.
Larry Cohen, and also featuring Michael Moriarty and Andrea Marcovici and Garrett Morris,
Garrett
and
Morris, who didn't work enough ever.
who did not work enough.
I want to
Um,
see him in this so bad right now. Great.
he's some spectacular
Paul
stuff.
Sorvino, Danny Aiello. Oh my God. Look who this cast.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to be great. I've seen it, not seen it in years. Fantastic.
Well, we'll have a good time next week. And
Halloween continues.
Halloween continues after Halloween
That's how
on
we
our
do it.
show. Yeah. So watch the stuff because we will spoil it next week. And in the meantime, tell all of your friends about the podcast. They can catch us live on YouTube, or they can watch us on the podcast.
And they can watch us later on YouTube if they want.
Yeah,
If it's too scary to watch us live, if it's too nerve wracking, because
yeah,
who knows what could happen. It's like watching stunt work and people in a trapeze.
yeah.
Some
At
people
the
can't
same
take it.
time. Yeah.
Um,
So tell everybody about it, and we will see you next week. Good night.
I couldn't put it any better myself.
That's our traditional sign off. Good night.